everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Get Into the Fat Cashflow Game with K&K. I can barely say
it's Get in the Cashflow Game
with K&K.
Yes, get in the game of cashflow.
As you can see, I don't make a living by writing or speaking, because if I did, I'd be living in a van down by under the river. Anyways, this is episode 119. We're crushing it. We're moving along. I'm excited for 2021 because we kind of just we did a bunch of podcasting and now we're back at it. We're getting some cool guests on and I know we're really having fun with it again. And one thing I will mention to you guys is I'm just thinking of this right now while Krystle's sitting here going, oh, here we go on one of your tangents. But it's sometimes in life, in business, you could be doing something and sometimes it loses its buzz, its fuzz, its whatever. It's okay because sometimes you take a step back and you recalibrate and you take 10 steps forward. So a lot of people with podcasts, I'm speaking about podcasts, they might start one, they do 10 episodes and it's like, this thing sucks, it doesn't work. It's sometimes just what it is. So anyways, I'm really glad because we've taken a step back. We actually moved our podcast around in our office because we're growing here with our businesses. And if you guys could see on camera, which you should be watching, we have badass artwork all over. Even a lady came in, she's like, whoa, what'd you guys do to your office? I was like, I don't know. I think somebody came in and tagged it. It's so weird. But anyways, I just think sometimes you do need to take a step back to take a couple steps forward. But Krystle, who do we have on today and what are we going to be talking about?
Thank you for that tangent, first off on the podcast. And
it is true though, right? Don't you agree that?
Yeah, I think you have to create your own momentum sometimes though too. So maybe you need to take a break, but then you also have to build momentum for whatever it is that you're trying to do because, and also momentum is not enough to get you through. You got to have a strategy and a plan and all of that. So it's if you're kind of losing the luster of whatever it is that you're doing, you have to step back, make a plan, and then just start taking steps, and that will build the momentum back up and get you excited. That's essentially what we've done and what we continue to do. But every single successful person, I want to say, struggles with procrastination or not feeling inspired. And we all go through those phases and those periods in life, especially if you have families and jobs and other things. You're trying to juggle all these different things. Eventually you're going to feel a little bit of burnout. You need to recharge the batteries, reassess, and then move forward.
Hell, Krystle had 2 kids back to back.
I did. I was basically pregnant for 3 years.
But she's back, ladies and gentlemen. She is officially back. She's on it. She's ready to go. She's ready to build. She's ready to hustle. Monty didn't even really know the Krystle that I was always saying about because when you met her, she had the kid, right?
I had the kid.
Was the kid inside or did she have the kid?
She had the kid.
That kid was Harlow.
2 weeks old.
2 weeks old when we met you? Yeah. Holy smokes.
Now she's 2 months.
But no, I'm saying is Monty even sees it whoa, this is a different Krystle. So it's exciting for all of us. So Krystle, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much. But today we have Gabe Schurman, and he is at a company called Arize. And we had them on the show because they specialize in the smart technology space for residential, I should say, because you could do it in a home or you could do it in apartments. You can do it in large buildings, small buildings. I will say that I think a lot of the smart technology that they have can easily fit in the luxury category. But there are some things even for me that I would consider doing to our building. So they are pretty tech-based. They're pretty new, actually. So they started in 2016, but they have a bunch of other products that they have created and that are worldwide. It's not just US-based.
It's crazy.
So we're a bunch of really smart people. The thing that I love about the smart technology is that they have multiple technologies and they all communicate together and you can control them all from one app. So for example, we have the Ring app. We have Google Home.
We have another different camera outside.
Yeah. So the thing is that I have to go onto the Ring app if somebody's ringing the doorbell and do that. And then all the settings are separate for that. And then you go onto the Google Home app and you take care of your Google stuff. And even though Google bought Nest, we have the Nest cameras, and now I have to go to the Nest Cam to control my thermostat and
basically,
to control the camera.
It sounds like a pain in the ass.
So you have to have 3 different apps to control your home. This is really cool.
It's all under one umbrella.
All under one.
And the other cool thing is they actually make all the products in-house, which I was like, that's a game changer. Because one of the questions I had was, what do you do then if the lock breaks? Oh, by the way, we're not going to give you that answer because you have to listen to the podcast. Ooh, I slid that one in there. That was good.
Thank you. Oh my God. Okay, so yeah, one of the things they do have are the smart locks. The coolest thing for me is that you don't have to have Wi-Fi for those, but they also have the water detectors, so they can detect leaks. It will tell you about the leaks right away, which obviously, especially in Southern California, I would say, but I mean, really any property, but since our properties are all old and we have a lot of plumbing issues because the plumbing is usually old, that can cost you a lot of money too. So that affects your bottom line. You have these smart leak detectors. It tells you right away when you have a leak. They also have security. So they have motion sensors that you can install around the property to keep unwanted visitors out of there, and then just keep track of what's going on around the property. They also have entry sensors for the actual units, like around the windows and doors that they do. And the cool thing is even the tenant can customize it and control it from an app. So that's really awesome. They can give different codes for their guests or people to drop off packages, special codes.
Crazy. Like if you have a cleaner that comes or somebody needs to come in to check the unit or something, you can let them in. And I think also, I might have this wrong, is within the community, you might be able to communicate within your community about things pop. Like you get alerts, like if something happened in one of the units, I think everybody gets alert, like somebody broke in or something. I might be wrong, but that I'm guessing because like within a community, if you're in a 500 apartment building, it's communicating and letting them, like if something happens, the front desk, the handyman, all this, like.
And the cool thing is, if you own multiple properties, if you're a property manager or you're a direct owner and you own multiple properties, you can control all of your properties from one dashboard. So you don't need a bunch of different logins. It's like truly set up for owners who own multiple properties and tons of units. So I think that's
I think you mentioned
really cool.
single family homes are really good.
Yeah. So if you own like 50 single family homes and you want to add these technologies in there, you can actually control all 50 homes from the one dashboard and kind of check everything and customize it individually, customize it grouped. Like there's just a lot of customization that you can do. It's cool that the tenants can have it. And I think you can definitely charge a little more. You can either pass the cost on to the tenant or you can pay for it. And then maybe you can get, increased rent through some of these smart technologies, because let's face it, I mean, in the world that we live in, everybody is all about convenience. And also I think once you get something like a Nest, for example, just even the Nest thermostat, like seems so archaic to go back to like the little thermostat that you buy, even the digital ones.
But what you can do with it. Yeah. And really, guys, why we had Gabe on and talked about this company, it's the Amazon effect. And if you guys don't know why Amazon's so successful, Amazon's saving two things. It saves time, and time means you're saving money. So with this, is with all the smart technologies, if you're trying to manage, like Krystle said, if you're an owner and you have 15 different buildings and you can queue that, under one platform, but also if you have a leak and you catch it right away, I mean, if anybody owns property and you've had a leak, that could be $5,000 in damage. If you can catch it right when the leak starts, it could be a $50 fix. So that is time. The other thing is like he said, is one of the biggest factors that we didn't really know is that in the C&D properties, that the people losing their key is like a monumental time and money sucker for management. And he was saying, so now if you have the codes on the door.
Well, I knew that because I had we did property management, and the keys were always a mess. Like people were losing keys, taking keys,
and they love to call you at midnight when they got home from the bar too. And that's a lovely conversation when they're sober.
Yeah. So anyway, check out the podcast. I think that there's a lot of really cool information here. Definitely some things that you should think about adding value for your tenants, adding value for your properties, making the tenant experience a much more enjoyable one. And also kind of separating yourself from the rest. Even though you don't have to get all of these technologies. In fact, we don't even recommend that you do that right away, but maybe implement a couple at your properties. Like for me, for example, on our C property, I would definitely look at the smart locks, because that's just one thing that would save us a lot of keys and locks and all that kind of stuff. But then also the leak detector, I think those are like two no-brainers to consider having in your property, whether it's luxury or not. So anyways, continue on, listen to the podcast, and don't forget, if you like this episode, please do leave us a review, subscribe, and then share it with everyone you know.
And we're going to jump right in with Gabe now.
Awesome. All right, Gabe, thanks for coming on today. I know that you work in the kind of apartment technology sector, which I find to be so interesting because I feel like, at least property management kind of technology seems like it's been coming a long way, but the rest of our industry is pretty archaic. But it sounds like you've got some super exciting ways to kind of make owning an apartment building, or at least managing it if you're not operating, a lot easier. And there's definitely some cost savings to be had there. So can you tell us a little bit about the technology and the company and how you guys got into this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me here in Gig Selling Arize. So the company's based out of Anaheim, California. Been around since 2016. We have, I think it's something like 50 unique products across 37 countries. Our to start, I guess, is to define the concept Internet of Things, right? IoT. What is this exactly? Everybody hears that, and it's more of a buzz term. So it's any type of device that you might have that used to be just regular and now is connected to the internet and able to communicate with some type of software that then projects that information back to whether it's the residents or it's the property management company or whoever it may be. We take those devices and we aggregate that information across several different units, properties, and portfolios, and now it becomes extremely viable and valuable information for your property management companies. And that's basically the gist of it without jumping, too deep in.
I never even really thought about the data aspect of it. That must be so interesting to be able to gather data. That alone makes it really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you have a leak potentially, right? Water damage is one of the biggest challenges that people deal with, and that could happen without knowledge for an hour, a day, a month, depending on occupancy or if you're trying to rent that unit out, and then scale that across several properties and portfolios, and now you're in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of potential damage. Whereas you can just stick a device in that habitual problematic area, whether it's the water heater or under the sink or by the toilet, wherever all those challenges happen. And then you get a notification immediately on a dashboard or an email that says, hey, you have an issue.
Yeah, I think when we were managing property, I came across your company because I was telling Krystle about it. But I think a lot of people are just, unfortunately in the multifamily space, a lot of people are just, mom and pop, they just don't get it yet. They're like, I just get the call or this. But I think if you're managing on a larger scale, it makes sense. So my question for you is, who is your typical customer right now and who you guys are working with?
So I think that, as you guys hinted to in the beginning, it definitely takes off on a larger scale faster because they have more money there. But honestly, it benefits the smaller companies potentially more because that's where everything usually staggers and takes so long to get to. So then what happens is their properties become less marketable and they're not able to retain residents as well because there's some other more appealing property out there. So definitely we're maybe as an industry with, let's say, 23 million units in the U.S. nationwide, a 5% maybe penetration rate. And that's all those big companies that you hear about, Greystar, the 500,000 unit, massive conglomerates. And then when you boil it back, I think that we're starting to get into that. I mean, we've got, I want to say maybe a dozen or so opportunities on the table right now that are 30 units, 60 units, stuff like that. So it's across the board. It's definitely across the board.
Well, I definitely think that regardless of the size of the building, that some of the things, maybe not all of them, because the first thing that came to my mind when I was looking at some of this stuff is maybe you do that. Certain products are for more luxury properties, let's say, like some of the security and, some of the other things that you have. But as far as leak detection, I'm like, why wouldn't every property need that regardless of quality or class or tenant, type? So it seems like that's something that everybody would need. I mean, I would certainly be interested in it for our apartments too. I mean, I think that's something that's huge because you're right. Especially in a place too, San Diego, where most of our buildings are 60s, 70s built, maybe 50s, some even older, where plumbing is one of the biggest line items for maintenance and repair for us. Plumbing is just baked in there. It's just, that you're going to have a lot of plumbing. So this could help reduce water cost and also just help you identify at least some of the small stuff a lot more quickly.
But to clarify the part of the market, so Class A and Class B absolutely are the first to market with the product mix, right? But it's interesting because I had a conversation today with a tax credit property. And as you know, that's probably more of a Class D property. Well, it's a paradox because the luxury properties don't experience these issues such as leaks nearly as much as the Class D and Class C properties because of the demographics that they service, and then just the sheer capacity of labor and people that they have on staff to attend to the issues that they have, right? So we talked about leak detectors. How about locks, smart locks, for example? Lockouts are tenfold at a Class D and Class C property versus a Class A or a Class B property, right? So that paradox or the swing of the pendulum really goes more towards convenience and luxury at the top, and then like just savings, right? The NOI increases for Class C and Class D properties based on the amount of savings that they provide, not necessarily the ability to increase the premium, which is what you would see at the Class B and Class A properties.
So when you guys started the company, obviously, like, what was the main, I mean, it sounds like we might know, but what was the main problem you guys were solving here for just, your typical customer?
Oh, great question. So this company was actually born a little uniquely. I will say all of our companies, the market as a whole was born out of single family living, right? So smart tech was put into single family homes. And then what happened was probably around 4 to 6 big national providers came in and they said, let's just take all these buzzword IoT, right? These Internet of Things, Nest, Ring doorbells, whatever they may be, and put them under one big umbrella and just do some algorithms, some coding, some software that'll innately provide some type of environment for them to live in. So then they don't have to come to market with a product mix and they already have all the bells and whistles that they need. We found that there was an issue with that innately. The problem that we see is if you think about it like dominoes, and this is how Arize was born, when you have, a third-party product and then a third-party support system and then a third-party warranty and so on and so forth, fill in the void, you're not only stacking the dominoes long, but you're also stacking them high. So the challenges you experience boil back to just the amount of time that it takes to fix the product, but it's immense, it's exponential. And when you take one house, single family home tech, and then you multiply it across, again, whether it's 30 units or 3,000 or 500,000, the challenges just become magnitude of scale. And that's where we came in. So now we develop everything from bottom to top. Vertical integration is a good buzzword for it. Products, software, support, everything from A to Z, we provide ourselves.
Remote access, smart apartment security, smart leak detection, residential mobile app. What do you think is, so when you sign up a customer, is everybody typically getting them all, or is it kind of an a la carte, or how do you guys kind of have the mix of products, and how does it work with somebody signing up?
3 basic packages, but it is a la carte because we find that while the problems are pretty generic across the board, there are a lot of unique scenarios and different, I think traditional game from back in the 200s, right? When we started selling things back in the day, you had to have an issue to solve. You had to have a problem to bring someone to the table. So maybe, there's a leak issue or water damage here, or there was recently a fire there, or there's locks being changed out there. All those different things bring people to the table, and then we build from there.
And now when you launch the product, you obviously did market research saying if we launch this, we can probably save time, which equates to money, which equals more cash flow, right? So that's really what you're saving at the end of the day. When you guys started initially and said this was our goal, and now you've been in business for 4 or 5 plus years, how is it kind of matching up when you originally started? Do you feel like you're kind of hitting the numbers and customers are getting what they want, or are you surpassing expectation because maybe, you offering more products since the beginning of you guys started?
Yeah, I think we're actually surpassing expectations. I do think there has been traditional challenges along the way, just like every industry and every company. But we are chugging along and things are going phenomenal. We definitely couldn't ask for a better opportunity than we have now.
And what product do you think that your customers are definitely seeing probably the most? I mean, I see here, people can access the doors and things like that, which is great. But where do you think somebody that's looking to say, somebody's coming to you and it's like, okay, this is where they're really seeing the cost savings. Maybe there's some time, but is it the plumbing or what is the big, the big kahuna or whatever that's the problem for most of these apartments?
So the smart lock provides the most benefit in the front of the house and the back of the house. So the savings for what the lockouts would be and the rekeys and all these things that the property management staff experiences. And then the capacity for the residents on the smart locks are so much more vast than what they understand. Being in this convenience world that we live in where you get your food delivered, you have your dog walked, you have your house cleaned, you have your stuff, your whatever it is, insert here. You can actually give out up to 250 codes per lock, the resident can on their own. And then it goes even further. They can time the codes. So if they have someone show up between 3 and 5 every Monday and Wednesday, that's a time code that only works at that specific location at that time. Or you can have it automatically erase after one use or after a certain amount of 2 hours of time. So smart locks are definitely the biggest. I'd say leak detectors, if you've experienced water damage, it's hard to tell someone about a problem if they've never had it before. And then thermostats are there. It's interesting because it goes two ways. There's some properties that pay for the utilities and then charge the residents, whereas there's other properties that the residents pay for their own utilities. So that's another one that kind of sits in the middle there.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you because, COVID hit and a lot of people are sitting at home. I think one of the other issues that I was always constantly hearing about is that we know is people are getting more than ever. We got Amazon world we live in. So everybody's getting stuff delivered and it's on the doorstep and it's getting, there's the theft. And I heard Amazon's doing something where they actually will go into your property, drop it, shut the door. So are you guys finding where residents that live in a big apartment building, they're like, hey, I've had stuff stolen or I want it to go in. They're giving the code to let people in so they don't have to deal with that type of stuff. Is that something you're seeing kind of grow?
Yeah. So again, there's some properties that manage packages fully at the front and they don't let them go past there. And then with the package management industry taking off, I think within the last 4 to 5 years, similar time frame, there's been a lot of challenges with that as well, right? Massive capex, and so then as you were just stating, that's the other side of it. They will allow those package delivery vendors to come in and have that access code to just use it once, drop the package and go,
I would imagine the number of packages they are now receiving at those communities where they get them all at the front. Like you have to have a massive storage room in a large community because everybody's getting stuff delivered now. I mean, like you said, you're getting your groceries delivered, you're getting Target delivered, you're getting everything you need is now delivered. Like you're shopping now online rather than going to the mall. I mean, it just seems like it's getting out of hand with the packages. I wanted to ask you, because I think we have looked into smart locks previously. We have vacation rentals.
They're on there
too, and we have some smart locks. But I think one of the bigger challenges we had to find was smart locks that didn't require, well, on that property, I think it's okay, but some of them require internet. And that has been a challenge as well for some of those mom and pop buildings, is now they have to pay for that extra internet cost every month to have things like smart locks. Is that required for your different technologies?
Great question. So that is another issue that we saw on the market. Thank you for opening that up. No, we actually provide cell tower connectivity to our devices, which relieves headache hand over fist when it comes to these challenges, because now Wi-Fi is more of a backup than a primary.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So a question for you is, let's say I have even mom and pa, we have, and I own a bunch of apartments. and I've got, 5 different buildings, 30, 40, 50 units each. Are you able to manage this from one platform? And kind of how does this all, like, if somebody's listening, how does that work for managing it? And what can they really do on the iPad, on the phone? And I wanted you to kind of talk about, like, how robust that system is and what expectations somebody can have.
Absolutely. So whether you have 1 unit or you have 10,000 units and several different properties, you manage them all from one web-based portal. But I would look at that portal as 2 tiers, right? So it depends on the way you structure your company. So the first tier would be your property management site on staff or on site, property management staff on site. They would have access to that first tier where they'd only be able to see the one property that they're dealing with. They'd get full notifications with consideration to a privacy wall about everything that's going on in the community, whether it's low batteries, if there's potential fire, any of these situations that could arise are notified to them immediately. Simple web-based platform. They can also get it through email as well. Now, if you're a regional or an owner and you have numerous properties with hundreds or thousands of units, then you can manage all of those properties from that same platform, but you would have different access features, if that makes sense. So you'd actually be able to choose between the different communities that you want to target. And while the property management staff on site would have a collected view of what they're seeing, that regional or the owner would have a collected view of everything.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's
Really cool.
I think it's like, I feel like we're turning into more of a renter's nation. I think, it's like you've got the Blackstones and stuff buying all these homes. So, I think from a home, if you're somebody that owns 30, 40, 50 homes, this is great because they're more spread out. You don't have one building. And we always say that you've got, 50 roofs, more toilets, more front door, back door in this, and, to go drive across town to get stuff. You can't drive 50 houses probably in one day. So if something happens, you got a maintenance guy over. So are you guys working with anybody that has like massive home portfolios and stuff like that?
We are diving into that. We haven't gained any clients in that area yet, but I will say that the interest peaked in 2019, and then with 2020's pandemic driving people out of the concentrated geography, that's where they're pushing everybody into single family homes and into more suburban areas, which is why I think we're seeing this big robust boom of single family home rentals in communities, which to me is unheard of. If they had that, 10 years ago, I would have never rented an apartment.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure. And then I was going to ask you about the, I just drew a blank of the question I was going to ask you. It was about...
So I can piggyback a single family home while you think about it. The really cool thing that happens with the accumulation of doors in a single family home neighborhood or rental, however we devise the terminology for this new subset of the industry, is that a lot of those traditional providers that came into the market first and just put an umbrella over a lot of B2C devices are now struggling because they see that the access points for those devices are very challenging. So do you guys have at your house by chance a Ring doorbell or?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you see
the Nest, the Ring, yeah.
Now you see how the interface of those products, when you log in, it's one. There's no opportunity to scale that. It doesn't ask you if you want, maybe your wife or your spouse.
Communicate with each other, which is super annoying. So I have to have so many different apps.
Yeah.
I have the Nest, I have Google Home, I have the Ring app.
And I think that the APIs aren't talked to. It's like, I think I know where you're going. Yeah, it's like.
You're right. That's exactly right. So whether you see it under multiple doors under one roof, or if it's just multiple doors, as long as they're all managed by the same company, it makes sense to go with Arize versus a competitor that's piecemealing their offering.
Yeah, no, that is really helpful because I think that can be problematic, especially if you're a property manager or if you're an owner operator where you've got your property management software and then you have this software and you have that software and you have all these other things. Like I remember when we had the management company, I had like this huge long list of all my logins and passwords and things, and you'd have to give them to like new people when they started. It was just annoying. I have a question too in regards to how like the kind of billing and transfers and things like that happen. So I imagine that because you're on a platform that there is like a monthly service charge to that, and then also to second that, what happens when you sell a property and how does that go with like educating buyers on how this operates and the cost and the efficiency and all that good stuff?
That's a good question.
Yeah, really good question, actually. So we are probably the most flexible in the market when it comes to pricing because we own our entire supply chain, from developing the products to providing the support to them and on-site installation and staff as well. So you have the buyer, the client, prospect has an option to obviously do traditional payments where they just pay for everything up front. We like that the most, of course.
Yeah.
And then you have, I think 2 to 3 other options where we can actually charge your resident. So it's just a complete bypass of the property and they don't have any commitment to anything. It's just going straight to the resident. Then the other 2 would be leasing it. So you'd finance the equipment and the software and the hardware. And then just your traditional 1, 4, 12 payment plan, depending on how that's best suited for the property. When you buy and sell a property to a new, so when you're transitioning from your ownership to new ownership with our product matrix, we provide incentives to the new ownership to expand their product mix with us. So we provide exponential price decreases in order for them to see the value of what we provide as well.
Yeah, so you kind of give them like, let's say maybe a discount to start, and then they see the value of the products and the software, and then hopefully you retain those people. Is that basically the way it works?
That's right. And sometimes
it's like sort of a pain to change locks, for example, or things like that too.
But cost effectively for you, it's like we're already there, they're on.
Yeah,
like
keep it going.
To take it off, let's see if we can keep them as customers. So let's basically, it's almost like a 90% off free trial, whatever the number is, just to basically like kind of break even. Let's see how it goes. What's
Well, just to finish that one off, one of the biggest challenges owners see if they try to take smart tech out of the property is now they have a challenge with decreasing rent versus increasing rent. So think about the cost to switch. So not only go from nothing to something, but go from one smart provider to another smart provider. That exchange is extremely challenging. And then more so, what are the residents going to think? You have all these leases and all these terms. So it's not something that we see as challenging as it would appear to be so.
A couple questions. Number one is new builds. Are you guys, with new builds, are you guys getting to them early? Are you guys marketing? I'm just curious about it. If it's a build, are you guys trying to hit them up before and say, hey, let us install? So when you launch, we're here, it's live, they got the whole technology. Are you guys finding a lot of people using you guys with, building these new apartments? Because there's a lot of that going on right now.
New builds are the golden goose of our industry.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
That is exactly what we're going for. Occupied installs are fun and challenging and joyful for everyone. But when we find these developments that are, bare, and we just go in and the time that it takes to get it installed, everything is just very smooth. The only, I would say, difference is that you're logging the sale 12, 24, 3-4 years before it even happens. So that's the transitional challenge with new developments.
Yeah, for you guys. And then my question was, if we can just kind of go through like costs of how you guys break it down. I know one of the big things is the door lock, and can you go into typically, I've got a 30-unit building or I've got one. Are you going to give the person with 30-unit building more of a discount than if I have just a house I want to try it on? And then if you can go into, is there a discount for the one time up front? And is it, cheaper or, leasing, all that? I just want to kind of go through the cost and so everybody kind of knows that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think an average cost that you can see for a full suite is between $400 and $600. Okay. If you're just doing smart locks, then you're only looking at a couple $100. And absolutely, we love to give higher discounts to more business in the future. So we really like to work in a partnership arena opposed to just a 1 to 2 sale arena. And if we can lock in partnerships, then they can keep their price low for the long term, opposed to constantly shopping and looking around in the market. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that, even for us, for example, even just switching management software is such it's so exhausting. So I think, it's best to do all the research up front. And then, like you said, this is like a marriage. You make that decision and you move forward, and maybe things aren't going to be perfect, but you work through the issues and you keep growing together. And that's kind of what you want to do, because bouncing around from one service provider to the next, I think they all have their probably pros and cons as well, but also just from we're doing this to be more efficient, not to create more work and headache. And then also residents don't like change. Like, they get used to something, and it's like, unless it's just horrific, they enjoy to just set it and forget it. So it's like, now they can rely on that. I agree that you want to have a partner versus having a lot of change and people who are looking around at different products all the time.
Yeah, do you guys have who is your competitor right now? Is it the ones that are more individual? And I know you did say, which is cool, so you guys actually make all your products like in-house and everything you produce. Was that correct?
Yeah, so I would say the national competitors are out there and easy to Google, but the most interesting environments that we find are these local shops that pop up out of nowhere, and we'll find a nice, 10 property, 300 to 400 units on each property in Texas or, wherever it may be. And all of a sudden this, John Jones technology comes out of the woodworks and offers all this crazy stuff. And we've never heard of them, and we're trying to do deep dive understandings of it. And we're more interested in, we don't ever want to slander everybody. We think it's all great business in general, but we want to provide warnings to companies that may potentially choose the wrong business and not do enough legwork in the front themselves. And then they find themselves in a situation where all of a sudden they're uninstalling products, or they're in environments where they don't like the outcome and the residents don't like the people, and all these different situations that are happening. And so that's where we see the biggest challenge is on more of a local scale, where it's easy to go out and meet somebody that's an individual owner and say, hey, you're going to deal with one of these big guys. You're going to get things that they're going to slander us, get in there, and then not be able to provide the bandwidth and capacity that they need to for 30 units, 100 units, 1,000 units, whatever it may be.
Also, too, longevity. I think that's like one of the biggest things. So then if you invest in all of this software and these door locks and all these things, and then the company goes bust, and then you have this technology that you purchased, and I don't know how long you were able to use it for. Maybe you got your money out of it, maybe you didn't. But that's also, I would say, one of the bigger risks with this type of company, is that you want to go with a company that's solid, that is going to be around for the long term, because it's a big investment also into your property.
And we're all trying to put that best foot forward. The Coca-Cola company, those staples that America has known for decades. But the truth behind it is, we all started, less than 10 years ago. I think one of the biggest people in the industry, which was in 2014, they're valued now at like 1.5, 1.7 billion. And that's only with 6 to 7 years in the industry. So it's a really interesting game that's happening now, how fast it's growing versus how long we've been doing it for.
Well, you're definitely in a very good business. I'd say there's a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, educating the consumer. So I think if I was just like anything, like if you're managing apartments or you own, I think you're going to look at it and go, okay, you're going to look at the competitors, see what the difference is. But I think more importantly is, from your point of view, your competitors, what's out there. If somebody is building or they're coming to you, if they're going to look at you in other places, what should they be looking for, right? What should be important to them? What is the difference from maybe you and a competitor? And one thing I do like about you guys, the third question is, if I've got the lock and there's a problem with, it breaks or something, You guys have your own product. How fast can you get switched out? And how does that work? If there is a defective device, what is the turnaround time to get it fixed? And how does that kind of work? I know there's 3 different questions there, but I kind of wanted to, they kind of all go in one, I feel like.
Yeah, so always when we install properties, we provide us, I think it's either 5 or 10% of the products up front, so they just have them in the back office in case there ever are issues. So they do always have something on hand. I will say the biggest challenge that we deal with are not like defective products or anything like that, but just changing batteries, so they get a low battery life at about 30% of what, the battery should be, the lifespan. And then that gives them X time to change it out. And they'll say, okay, well, let me prioritize changing a battery with, X, Y, Z. And so that notification sits there for times and then the battery dies. And then they do it, right? So that's the only challenge that we find with products, or the highest challenge, I would say. And then let me think. The difference between us, or what we would tell them to look for, is, are you looking for a product mix that's going to be of the highest value to you first and then grow? Or are you looking to just come into your residence, right, with something that's just going to blow their socks off? Do you want, and we've never seen this before, but 10 products in each unit? Usually you'll see 4 to 6 products in each unit. And that's what I would ask our prospects to look into. You come into this thinking, I want voice recognition. I want Alexa greeting these guys when they come in their doors. To be honest with you, that's not where the most value is. And from what we've seen from surveys in the market, the residents are looking for thermostats. They're looking for, door locks. They're looking for things that are of the highest value that come to their mind first, right? Not everybody's comfortable with talking to Alexa in their house. So when you purchase something like that for a portfolio or for one apartment building, you may not find that you're getting full integration with your properties. So I would definitely say do your research and your homework with your residents first. Find out what they want, and I promise it's less than what you think, which is huge value too, because now all of a sudden you can charge $20 to $50 more per month for 3 products instead of 10. And your payback period, everything changes. It's drastically shortened, your NOI's increased, your property values to the roof, and you didn't have as much headache to go with in the beginning. So we all come into this new industry thinking, oh, I want all this stuff because if I'm going to get into technology, I'm going to blow the socks off and go straight in. You don't need that. You really need, like I said, 3, 4, maybe 6 devices max.
What's on the horizon? Like, what do you guys, if it's, maybe I might be able to talk about it, but where do you see your industry going in 5 to 10 years? Like, just kind of a look out, like, where do you guys see this kind of going, where it's probably, I know it's going to get crazy, but how do you see anything you could tell us, like, on the horizon?
Great lead in. Have you seen Fifth Element with Bruce Willis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's where we see it going. We right now have the capability to connect to 100 devices. And that's why we love that partnership model, because we're going to put some framework in your units that have the ability to grow. And eventually we'll be speaking, our hub will be talking to your refrigerator, your dishwasher, your microwave, your TVs, everything that you can think of, and then aggregating grocery lists for you. We have 2 kids at home, so we go through milk like there's no tomorrow, and we buy half-gallon jugs. So we get 3. And they'll tell us. They'll say, "Hey, you're down to 1 half gallon," and they'll set that up for us. So we think it's going to be a beautiful future with immense convenience.
Yeah, I imagine too. As a builder, you got to go lease up a property, which takes time. So you have competition there. So people, let's be honest, you walk in, people love the gadgets. They love the technology. We all do. It's just making life
Honestly,
easier. If it's
funny.
Set up and done, it's like...
Even just something as like a thermostat, like I would never live without one now because it's just so convenient. It's so easy. And it seems so basic, but and then the Ring, for example, like the doorbell, so that you know everybody who's coming to your door. Like you said, if you need to let your cleaning lady in, now you don't have to drive. You just give her a code. It's like all those little conveniences add up to the point where, like you said, you just can't go back on that. Like, you can go forward, you can get better and improve on things, but you're not going to have all that access and all that ease of use to then go back to like a dial like thermostat or something, or a doorbell that you just push. It's just it's crazy too how much of the world is really moving that way. So to have communities doing that, for example, like Ring we talked about, is like this neighborhood watch thing is crazy. I mean, honestly, I don't even look anymore because it's just so intense of like every break-in, every weird person walking around their house. Like it's up there on the video. But now so many communities are connected in this way, even just through their Ring device. So it's like, why would an apartment community not have the exact same thing?
That's right. And I'll draw an interesting contrast between what you both said. So you're both correct. And I would just ask one question. How long or how many hours or how much time did you spend on each smart device when you set it up? Your Ring doorbell, your thermostat, how much time did you invest figuring it out, getting it operational, and then playing with it and seeing where it went?
I don't even think we ever set it up properly.
Yeah, that's the problem.
That was actually my next question, was about the setup, because tenants moving in and out and how that all works.
No, but honestly, the Ring, for example, it was like, oh crap, we don't have a wired doorbell. What do you do when you don't have a wired doorbell? Well, this one works without a wired one, and then this one doesn't, and then you're trying to like figure out all this stuff, and even with the Nest, and it didn't work right, and then we don't have a screwdriver small enough for those stupid tiny little screws or something.
And basically, to answer your question, it's
hours.
Everybody does,
and then you're just so frustrated. I mean, you're happy once it's working, but it's like it's too much work.
Yeah, exhausted once you get it installed, because now you're at a point where you're like, now I actually need to figure out what's going on.
MAC on.
Schedules and all that, yeah.
And I compare to when we first got our first touchscreen phone, whether it was an iPhone or an Android, and then every update or every upgrade we do from there, we would literally jump into our phones and spend hours clicking each thing, finding out what that new thing was, and now we get an iPhone 12 that's by far the most expensive phone we've ever had, and we're like, that's cool. We don't put any more time into it. We don't have any higher expectations of it, and that all is to say that when you first get started in the IoT smart apartment living, go small in the beginning. Do 2 devices, do 4 devices, something that's less, because your residents will be overwhelmed. They'll come in and they'll see an app and they'll have the easiest directions to set it all up, but they'll never do it, or they'll only do it for one device, so they won't get the full value of it. And it doesn't matter how many webinars we do, how many in-person visits we provide, how many door hangers we put on. It's up to the resident and the amount of time they're willing to invest. So that simplicity in the front, the least amount of time in the beginning, and then build out long term. Let them know, hey, we have an excited new product that we're bringing out to you, video doorbells in 2022. How exciting! And then then you increase all those great things start to happen from there.
So you're saying kind of like scale it up as you go sometimes, and just go, because otherwise you'll just have all these devices that people just aren't using.
People are overwhelmed. When they get overwhelmed, they get frustrated.
Yeah.
I can't explain to you how much time a resident or anybody can spend in any app right now that controls 4 devices. You could spend hours spending, the away modes, the here modes, the different notifications, the times, and all these different things. And that's not to say that it's complex. You can also just open the phone and have 3 traditional modes that you want to use, but it can scare people away.
I get that.
Well, that's cool. I mean, honestly, this is, I think as technology goes, and I think obviously with the population, a lot of millennials, they're still living with their parents, but they come out, I think they really want this stuff. Because millennials, I think they do take the time to set up stuff, and they do it a lot faster than older people because they're used to they have the time, so I think they do it faster. So I can see obviously where this is going. So really appreciate the time. You guys got a lot of cool stuff going on here. Where's the best place people can find you, learn more about you, and how do you potentially, if somebody wants to set up a consultation and learn more about this, how does that work with you guys?
So definitely Arize Hub, ARIZE ehub.com is the best place to find us, and you'll find all of our links there to Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. And then if you want to find me specifically, it's Gabe Schurman on LinkedIn. I have a ton of info that I release there every day, all day. And that's how you can learn and contact us.
And you guys are nationwide. You're in all states, so people can do it anywhere.
We are nationwide in all states. Of course, we see a higher usage and need for it in certain areas, I'm sure, as you guys know. But we do offer nationwide services. In Canada coming soon.
Wow. Where are your probably more popular spots in the U.S. right now?
Yeah, so Florida, Texas, Arizona, California, New York, these are the highest usage, highest in demand areas.
More the urban areas?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for the time. Cool stuff. I think people can definitely, we're about technology, but I do like the fact that it's all under one hub, and I think that's really the difference for a lot of people. They got all these different devices, and like you said, I don't even think they're all connected properly.
Us included.
Yeah, us included.
I would honestly say that's the biggest benefit and the biggest thing that people can do when they come in. They can really do two things. One, learn your residence, which I know is the name of the game in the beginning, right? Learn your residence. And then two, you don't really need 28 products. And that's where the biggest difference comes in. Everybody thinks they need them now. You don't.
Very cool. Thanks so much for coming on, Gabe.
Yeah.
This was very informative and interesting. And who knows, we might be putting some smart technology in our building pretty soon.